Good morning. Well, we're outside because the weather's so pretty and enjoying all the new foliage and the trees blooming out. We're going to talk about the mark of the beast, which we know is the Antichrist. And this may take more than 1 week because there's so much here. And I want everybody to be able to participate in this. It's all covered in chapter 13 of Revelation. It talks about an upcoming event. We're going to have the tribulation period. And during that time, especially the last 4.5 years, or 3.5 years, there's going to be a rise of this superhuman power called the Antichrist, which really means another Christ. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that this morning and then go down to the mark that he will require. Actually, the false prophet is going to impose that upon us, but it reflects to the Antichrist, those who will identify with it. Now, there's a lot of people who have questions because they're saying, well, what if I get a tattoo today? Or what if I do this today? What you do today, or what you would do in an unknowing way, wouldn't have anything to do with it. This is a purposeful allegiance to the Antichrist. Yes. You know, in a way, all of us, when we choose to sin, for sin came into this world, and it passed on to all men, when we took our first sin into our life, we aligned ourselves with Satan. We quit listening to God's voice, and we start listening to another voice. Well, that's kind of picturesque of what will take place in that very difficult time after the rapture, where the people are left on this earth. They're going to make choices, and those who reject Christ are going to get the mark of the beast, or they will not be able to buy or sell. It's interesting, you know, with the rise of, I'm going to turn this over to you guys in a second, with the rise of electric cars, for example, one of the big arguments out there is that if I have an electric vehicle, the grid controls if I could start my car and go anywhere or not. Yeah. But if I have a pocket full of cash and a gas car, I can pretty much go anywhere I want to go. And we know that it's going to hone down to that, probably in that in-day scenario, it may be down to electric vehicles only and the absolute control. You may not be able to start your car without that mark. We don't know that for sure. So it's going to be a tricky time. So let's talk a little bit about the Antichrist, who is going to compose this. I'll open this up to you guys.
I look at technology, and like in the last days, how technology would just be rampant, and the growing of technology. And back in Bible days, like, they probably didn't think that would be something that could be used for the Antichrist. But now we look at it, like, I was looking at Amazon Fresh stores, and they're in the UK, and all you do is you scan a code, it links whatever you put in your cart to your account, and there's no cashier. You just walk out, and they are so certain that you can't actually steal from them because they have like 100 cameras in their store. Yeah. That you can't even add something to your account. Like, if they missed it, there's no way to actually add, to be like, hey, they missed this, let me add some more money, so I'm being like a upfront person. Like they actually are like challenging people. We don't think that this can fail. And that is just like a QR code. I scan it on my phone, and then now I can grab anything and walk out. Like, it's that wild. And like, doors don't open unless you scan codes, and unless you do that. It's like technology is all going towards what's in the Bible in the end days.
Was it Europe? Where was it? They just had huge blackout, no electricity. That's
somewhere. I don't remember where.
Scary, because that's kind of, flip of a switch, and everything that we live by,
or
is
EMP
turned off.
or any of those things.
Yeah,
you talk about the cameras. All the guys who were keying the Teslas, these Tesla trucks all have 9 cameras on them. Right. So they got you covered. They're gonna get you. I noticed with a lot of the ICE people going out after, especially the extreme MS-13 and trying to do agua criminals, they, with face recognition technology, of course AI has really bumped this thing. They're able to spot these guys, to know who, before they even move in and make the arrest, to know who they're dealing with. The whole world is changing that way.
That's right. You were talking earlier about sin. We've all sinned, fall short of the glory of God. And you think about these people in that time are going to be actually making an allegiance with the false Christ, not able to turn back. Yeah. And when you think of the mark, it was funny because Jesus gave a kind of an understanding of it when he spoke to the disciples, and when he was being tested about the coin, and he said they asked him, who do you pay taxes to? And he said, give me a coin. He says, whose face is this? He says, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, to God what's God's. When you look at that whole imprint that would have been on there, that image, that word that was used, it was the same word that they used for the mark. So it actually refers to an image where when you make that allegiance with him, you're totally separated, identifying your entire life. So when Jesus, so actually it comes from the word. The word that was used to describe image, it would be the reference to the image that was on the coin that Jesus spoke about. When you get into Acts 17:29, it's the same word. It's a Greek word, and I don't want to pronounce it because I'm going to pronounce it wrong, but it refers to an image or an imprint on a document. And the closest you can get to is that imprint that they would have saw when Jesus says, whose face do you see on this? And so he says, yes, there's something you're going to give to Caesar, but you're also going to give ultimately to God. And so when you refer to the mark, you just think about that whole mark, that whole image, and now people are going to make an allegiance, sell their souls over to the devil, basically, unable to return. Where, speaking of what Pastor Cliff was talking about earlier, we had the opportunity to repent, ask Jesus into our life. They won't be able to, nor will they desire to. And that's
After they get the mark?
After they get the mark. They won't desire to.
I don't know about that.
They won't be able to.
I don't know about that. They may die for it. But
They may die.
They may die for it, but I don't know
definitely
about
done
that.
with, though. I mean, if you take that mark,
You take the
angel
mark, you're
says
going to starve to
you're
death if nothing else. If you don't, I don't know. I don't know if God's grace will stop there or not, because I know a lot of people will be martyred, but it's going to be a problem anyway you look at it. Yeah, it's a good point. It's interesting. The word means mark or scar or tattoo. It's translated the different ways depending on the versions and where it's used. It means the same thing. I was reading a thing about Nokia has a technology that was developed actually a few years ago, but they're able to do a tattoo that is readable, not just barcoding, but actually has called it in a sense QR coding, but before QR coding really came in, they have a technology that's developed also within even tattoo work. You can do a QR coding that would really be, subliminal. So, and people are very proud of tattoos nowadays. That, where it was kind of a stigma when I was young.
Yeah.
I would think it would take it a step farther, though. Like, just thinking technology, I would think that they would make it universal to where if you don't have some kind of chip inside of you, like, and they make chips so small you wouldn't even know it's in you. Maybe it's even in a shot where it's in your bloodstream. Like who knows? But I would think they'd make some kind of chip to where if the car doesn't sense it, you can't unlock your car. If the door doesn't sense it, then you can't go into a restaurant, even though everybody else can go in. Like, there's technology out there where it can literally, like, stop you from going anywhere, having any technology, paying any bills. It will freeze your bank account. Like, that kind of extreme, besides just having it. Like, if it's a QR code, there's some people that might be able to get around it. Because, like, out of, in our country, 330 million people.
A lot of
like,
nerds.
There's a lot of people that get around stuff. So I think it's going to be so
Maybe more
crazy.
organic, a blend of organic, maybe even in there. Where you talk about the chips we put in pets and other things, and the same thing, we can have that kind of thing in
and
us.
people track their pets.
Yeah, they track our pets.
We're going to be tracked.
Well,
like, in that situation.
they have those for people too. Of course, our kids and whatnot. You can have that done, and so we're at a different age. That is, like Brian points out about the knowledge increasing from Daniel all the time. Our technology, every couple of years, it's all new. The next iPhones have already been developed, even though they're not on the market yet, because they're getting every penny they can get out of these guys before they drop you the next one. But the technology is so far ahead of where we're thinking, what we're seeing right now.
They say the government is 100 years beyond what the average person is, too. So they've got stuff, and they've got technology probably blow our minds.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, there's a company in Wisconsin that actually they're using it for their employees. They paid out $300 to their employees, to every employee that received the chip.
I read about that.
And it's a rice chip, and what they're using it for is to clock in and clock out. And they can also pay for things. It's already going on today.
That's wild.
The thing is that people will say, so what about that? Am I doing that now? If I track my kids, am I putting the mark of the beast into them or things like that? There will be no mistake about it. This will be a willful step. Nobody's going to inadvertently align themselves with the Antichrist, it will be a woeful step.
People thought that
Yeah.
too in COVID with the shot
You're right.
and the vaccines, and people thought, well, this is wrong because this is the mark of the beast or something. Like I totally agree. You're gonna know, like it's beyond like buying bread. That's like that is the leftover part of it. It's
Yeah.
going to be, hey, this is your alignment. You are aligning yourself with this being. He's going to be the king of the universe, kind of a thing. He's going to persuade people and deceive people, thinking that he is some kind of like Marvel character. And people are going to look at him and think, wow, I'm going to worship you. I'm going to pray to you. I'm going to bow down to you and to worship you. And I think that's like, the bread's going to be the leftover from that. It's going to be an extreme, I think.
I think you're right. In fact, next week, I'd like to take a little more time on this and actually talk about the Antichrist next week and why they will view him that way. A lot of people, first time around with President Trump, when he got in, and even this time around, you know, of course I voted for him, but some people say, I hope I'm not voting for the Antichrist, because he's a pretty popular guy, you know.
Yeah.
So to be on that scale, probably even greater and worldwide. I was thinking about what you said, the overflow, which is right. So will some people survive, you know, nutritionally, physically, without the mark of the beast? Yeah, some people in the earth may survive it. But we live in a land of luxury.
Yeah.
We have the ability to stockpile. And we could stockpile and refrigerate and, you know, all kinds of things. Most of the world doesn't live like this, and especially the third world. Within a week, people will start dying, and that's just the way that it is. We have 1 billion people on the verge of starvation right now in this world, so they will not survive a week without the mark.
Yeah. There's an angel. The Bible says there's an angel. God sends an angel out to go telling everybody, hey, if you take that mark, you are not allowed into heaven. So it's a big deal. God's not going to let anybody be duped.
So couldn't they get saved afterwards, do you think?
No.
No. I have 2 no's over here. How about you?
No.
All right. Well, I don't know that. I think you're right when it comes down to that point, which means basically nobody gets saved after the halfway point of the tribulation, if that's true. And I'm not willing to stake my entire theology on that, but
I want to take the study a little deeper, and I wanted to find out exactly how this chip is going to affect people so much that they're not going to want the Lord. So eventually, I believe, as I got to get deeper into it, it's going to affect somehow the emotional part of the person, the mental part of the person, and also go ahead.
I think that like I don't know, you guys, we see it all the time in ministry where somebody will grow up and they will seem like they're a good Christian, morals, values, everything's good. And then when they have kids, all of a sudden you see one where like a kid goes wayward and they have an affair or something. And I've seen it like in my own life with other people, and all of a sudden the person that you thought was a firm foundational Christian with morals and values all of a sudden says, oh, but that affair is actually better for this person in their life. You know, they're happier or they're nice. And I think when you start looking at like, my family is going to die.
Yeah.
People's brains go wild. They go crazy with that. And I think that's going to have an effect to it where I have to think about my entire family here. And
Yeah.
flip side of that is, so you take the mark of the beast and you've got children, and you're all in, and so you talk your family into it. You lead your family to get the mark. What about these kids? Will they have a chance? They're still kids. Can they get saved beyond that? I don't have an answer for that. I just spit it out there.
Isn't it
for
Funny, you brought that up, and then you think about in the schools how they're trying to allow the children to get sex changes not without the concession of the parents.
Right.
And then you think about when that chip comes, they're going to be able somehow, maybe that's going to be an effect where they're going to be able to get the kid to go get a chip without the parents.
So, what about them? I don't have an answer to that, but I think it's interesting to think about. It's going to be a tough time. There's not much good that comes out of it, except I know toward the beginning part of the tribulation period, we'll see a lot of people come to Christ. We see it in Revelation 7. And so the 2 witnesses and the 144,000 that go out and preach will have a huge effect. And I'm so grateful for that. But it's kind of like the last clarion call. We have some angels giving out the gospel. They're going, come flying across the earth. And God's doing everything he can. And then what? Well, it gets pretty sticky. We'll talk about the Antichrist figure You're never going to be able to identify him because nobody knows who he is. But if the Lord's coming soon, it's interesting to know that this person has already been born.
Right.
And he is, he may be an adult by now. It's a scary
the
thought.
plus side of I mean, interrupt you. That's the plus side of the 7-year period, is that for all of us who have family members that are unsaved, as horrible as it's going to be, and it's going to be bad. Jesus said there's never been a time as bad, there'll never be a time as bad. At least they have the opportunity through that to get
Right.
saved, and that's, their eternity's at stake.
I feel bad for the people who always talk about like, oh, I'm gonna wait until that period and then I'll turn to Jesus. But I mean, I know there's gonna be people that are gonna do that and they're gonna regret not living for Christ here now. But even still, with God's grace, like those people will be saved if they turn to Him, and they're gonna know they're gonna finally make that step of faith where it's like, wow, maybe I was on the fence and I didn't even think He was real, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, like I really messed up, and God's grace has saved me now.
Amen.
And I can be a light.
I think the good thing is that, we can conclude he's probably not going to be a Democrat or a Republican. He probably will be not from this country. We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's about it for time today. We'll talk to you next week, and we'll talk about the Antichrist. Thanks for joining us.